Now, as a coach, a part of that is you're convincing them to believe in you, right? The brain actually receives stuff differently from someone they trust than someone they don't. I heard a coach once say, I don't have to be the best quarterback coach, but my quarterback has to believe that I'm the best quarterback coach. Right? He has to believe in that play.
Absolutely.
Right. And so part of what you're, as a coach, you're passing on the hope that you genuinely have. If you're going to be a hope giver, you got to have it, right? And so you got to anchor that somewhere, right? In what you believe, experience, who you are as a man, all those things. But you got to have a hope somewhere that you're passing on.
Absolutely. And I think the timing of those things is really critical too. Will the team collectively be receptive to the message at that point in time? You know, you got to give them the message at some point in time. Whatever that message is, it's got to come between now and the next practice or now and the next game. And so trying to figure out when you think that group is going to be the most receptive to that message, that's important too. And sometimes there's a little bit of a lead up to the direct message, a little setup, if you will, in relation to trying to prepare.
Give me an example of that.
Yeah, I'm big on leadership too. And sometimes you bring the leaders into the room and you say, here's something we've got to address. And I'm going to address this before the next game. I need your help to kind of start spreading the word a little bit that this is going to be the word for the week. This is what we're kind of doing. And I used to do that. I had a saying, basically, that was kind of, so I didn't have a word for the week, but I had a saying going into every ball game or every moment that this is what our focus is going to be on.
Give me one of those.
Okay, I love this one. It's Winston Churchill, World War II. Okay, obviously the Prime Minister of England at the time, and going through some just horrific times there in Great Britain. And he said, courage is the greatest of all qualities because it's the quality that guarantees all others. And when you start thinking about that a little bit, courage is the root of everything, right? If you want to have a relationship, it takes courage to get involved. Right? If you want to have success, it takes courage to take the next step. Courage, whether it be about love or relationships or teamwork or commitment, sacrifice, dedication, all those virtuous words that we all love, they're all rooted in courage. One of the things that I used to do as a new head coach to try to figure out who the leaders were in the room was I had a dinner. Even if I couldn't afford it, I would pay for it myself, okay? Even if I didn't have it in the budget. But I would get table rounds, and I didn't have assigned seating. We'd do a little buffet, and I would watch where everybody sat, okay? Because that starts figuring out where the cliques are, right? Because you're not going to get rid of cliques. But you've got to find ways to get everybody integrated, right? And so you figure out where the cliques were, and then the other thing about a table round is, for whatever reason, whoever the leader is in that group, in that table round, everyone will be talking to that person. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing dynamic is that when they're telling a story about what they did that weekend or how their girlfriend is doing or what this class is about, they might say something like this, but their ultimate eyes will end up on who the leader is. And I would just watch that.
Yeah.
And I would make sure, okay, whether I wanted the guy to be a leader or not, for whatever reason, the team's already kind of selected. I need to get this individual in the right space, right frame of mind.
So again, when we talk about the brain being open for business, being regulated, we're talking about the smart part of the brain where most decisions are made, language, time, strategy, all of that. When you get dysregulated, that part shrinks. That's where mental mistakes come in. Regulation is something that tends to flow down from leadership. So if we were in a room with your football team and a big loud boom happened, everybody would look at you as the coach or look at the leaders and see how they reacted. And then if the leaders dove under the table, everybody dive under the table.
Right.
If the leaders headed to the door, everybody's headed to the door because that's part of that contagion of leadership, right? Well, it also flows, like you use the word courage. So in giving them courage, part of what you've done as a wise coach is you've given them an anchor to go back to when that adversity happens.
Exactly.
So you said, okay, no, here's adversity, courage. And all of a sudden, we're reorienting ourselves, leaders first and people following, based on that. The brain science follows right along with that.
And I totally agree with that. It does become the anchor. And that's what you're trying to create as the coach.
Yeah.
Is that focal point that when things are good or things are bad. I believe this also, that you've got to get individuals and teams and players to know that there's going to be good things and bad things, right? There's going to be success and there's going to be failures. And are you going to respond to that, understanding that I know this is going to happen, and so let's respond to it? Or are you going to react to it? React is I didn't know this was going to happen. And so now I'm having to decide what I'm going to do. Responding, on the other hand, is understanding that in every ball game, there's going to be bad situations and there's going to be good situations. How are we going to respond to that? That you're already making that decision before it ever happens. This is how I'm going to handle it. And I think certainly goes back to the kind of what you talked about in terms of kind of those anchors, is that response. What is my response going to be?
And so as you as a leader have that calm in the midst of adversity, that's passing on. We call it the contagion of calm, right? But sometimes you got situations where it does feel hopeless. You go to a team and we hadn't won a game in a while, and you get where Tulsa was last week. You hadn't won in a long time, and you're down 35-7. Somebody has to create enough hope until others get the hope, right?
Exactly.
Or something might happen where you get a scoop and score, or whatever it is. But that's a part of the role of a coach, even with your other coaches. Yeah. You're holding on to hope, or shining the hope until they can see it too.
Absolutely. I remember my first head coaching job. I was 35 years old. I was head coach at Illinois State. I just got the job, youngest coach in college football, second youngest coach in college football at the time. And yes, I'm figuring this thing out too a little bit. And Illinois State, we were playing somebody we shouldn't have probably been playing. It was a team that at that point in time, Kansas had been really good, been in bowl games and all that other kind of stuff. And we're down like 35-0 at halftime. And I came in and I told the team, and the only reason why this came to mind was I had a player here just a few weeks ago. I went back to watch a ball game in Illinois State, and they were honoring one of the teams. And this guy was a young player on that team. And he said, I remember you coming in the locker room. And you said to us very calmly that we're not going to win this game. But everything that you're about is going to be exposed in this next half. Everything that you've worked for, everything that you've done your whole life about who you are as a person, who you are as a player, is going to be exposed. So don't focus on winning the game. Let's focus on protecting who we are. And we came back out the second half. We didn't win the game. We didn't score any points, but they didn't either. It kind of was basically a draw there in the second half. And I remember kind of talking to the team about how proud I was of them after the game, because there would have been lots of people at that point in time that would have folded. And so redirecting their focus from winning to just protecting kind of your ego, your image, whatever.
Redefining winning.
Yeah, exactly.
Really what you did. I was with a school a couple of weeks ago that was 0-6, high school team. They were 0-6. Not very talented. Young coach, first year coach, and I was, one of the things that I talked to him about was, you got to find ways to redefine winning. You got to find wins that are celebrating until they learn what winning is.
Right.
So a winning effort on a play. We want to play. This is the kind of technique that we've been teaching. Yeah. This guy did it right here. This is a win, right? Or courage, or all those different things. You've got to find ways to celebrate winning until we understand what winning looks like on a bigger level.
Absolutely. I worked for a guy at one point in time, and I'm not going to name names here, when I was an assistant. But we'd come back on Sundays after a Saturday game, and every coach at your position, you had to show a moment of failure in the game with a player. And then the head coach would get up in front of the whole team and show every individual in the room this player's failure. And I did the opposite of that. Okay, I was so turned off by that that win or lose, that's how we opened up our Sunday, was showing a guy making a great play or offensive lineman running down the field and grabbing the quarterback or the running back and pulling them up after a big run. It didn't have to be a great play. It was a great moment. It was something that we were trying to instill on the team. And so it didn't make any difference. That's how we always opened up. And that kind of framed, even if we lost the rest of the day, because we'd started off with the things that we all knew that we wanted, the things that.
And guys want that. You want to be the guy that gets highlighted next, right? See,
Absolutely.
So winning becomes contagious in that sense, even on the non-winning kind of day. That's the winning effort we're going after. And so that's really good.
I'm sure other people have done it. I stumbled into it because the turnoff that I'd had from something that's
the failure. It's the same thing. The brain reacts to avoidance goes differently than achievement goes. We teach hold the ball high and tight instead of don't fumble, right? Because the brain actually hears those things differently, puts them in a different category. Well, the same thing, if the goal is we're going to not fail, I don't want to be the guy who fails. Well, my brain hears that as a challenge dramatically. I'm not saying that guys don't rise above it and some guys respond to different things, but the brain science behind that is you're making yourself as a coach have to work against the way the brain's made instead of working with it.
I used to tell our whole offensive football team the most important part of every play is that we possess the ball at the end of the play. Okay, and so even whenever we might go 3 and out, I'd say, okay, here's the things we've got to make correction on. But did we possess the ball at the end of the series, basically? I'd say, yeah, okay, let's make these corrections. And so, and we tended to be a very, very low turnover team. And I actually believe that it was because of the mentality that we'd set from day one with our offense. That was our main objective at the end of every play. Now, we wanted all the other things too.
Sure.
But that was the main objective. But we didn't talk about fumbles. We didn't talk about interceptions. We talked about collectively as a group, possess the ball at the end of the play.